Bizarre Reality Media.
Indiana County 911. My brother's gone. Can you be a little more specific, sir? He took my brother. Who took him? I don't know who took him. I don't know what. Sir, take time. Take a breath. Explain to me what happened.
And I looked out and there was this big red blinking UFO.
I can just say this. Something's going on in the woods. Something's going on.
They're not dogs, they're not coyotes. What could it be, right?
I had an encounter with a skunk ape, and it completely altered the course of my life.
I found a skull. Are you guys going to want to come film this?
Put him out.
I just see it.
Sightings of a UFO hovering over a barn.
Millie woke up from a dream, and when I went into the bedroom, she said there's a monster on the wall.
They saw that the creature had run through a barbed wire fence. They were able to obtain hairs. They sent the hairs to their lab, and it came back as an unknown creature.
Bizarre Encounters with Shayn Orin.
Welcome back, Bizarrites, to the most bizarre show on the internet. I am the one that some refer to as Shane, aka the original Shane Squatch, and alongside me, as usual, I have the big bad boo daddy himself, Sir Orin Felix. Welcome to the show, brother.
Do we not have a sound effect today?
No sound effects today. I was trying to keep it professional for guest shows. Because
you threw me off. I was waiting for the sound effect, and then there was nothing there. So my timing is off today. But
I try to be respectful for guests, at least. You know, when it's just us being raunchy on the show by ourselves, like, yeah, you know, Bizarre Encounters after dark. But I feel like we have to keep a certain level of professionalism for our guest episodes.
Well, hey, it's New Year's, so that can be our New Year's resolution. How about that?
Staying a little bit more professional, at least where we can. Because, of course, you know, we got to have fun. That's part of having a podcast and stuff. But, you know, time and place, I guess, where, like what I was mentioning last year, we're not going to overkill it with the buttons anymore because we're big boys and we're professional over here now, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And speaking about professional big boys, we do have one quick update for everybody that's been hearing me talk about the Patreon forever. I tried to streamline it a little bit. I did mention this on the last episode of Bizarre Inquiries, but instead of having two tiers going forward now, I'm going to just be doing one tier, and that one tier is going to be full access to everything that I have going on over there. And it's only going to be $2.50 a month. I know a lot of people don't need more subscription services, so I'm trying to figure out different ways to work this. Maybe one day I'll just end up dropping the Patreon altogether and we'll figure something else out. But for the time being right now, again, I know most people don't want to have more subscriptions, so trying to keep it minimal. If you guys want to check out the Patreon, see what it's all about, $2.50 a month now, and it is, of course, has a 7-day free trial if you guys want to see what it's all about.
And our only other real piece of news and updates for this week is the next episode of Bizarre Inquiries is going to be live on the, what is it? Bizarre Reality. I
threw you off, man. It's been too long.
I've been doing so good.
But the one change is we are only on YouTube now. So I think that's what threw you off, is that you knew something changed. You just know what it was. So it was also trying to streamline that the only place that we're going to be going live from now on is on YouTube. So make sure you guys follow the YouTube.
And that is, again, the Bizarre Reality Media YouTube channel. But anyway, that's going to be on Thursday, February the 5th. It's going to be roughly 7:15 Eastern time. You guys be sure to submit any questions or videos or articles or anything that you want us to inquire about, and also join in the chat during the episode.
And if anybody is interested in being a guest on the show, possibly sharing their experiences or encounters, or contacting us for any reason whatsoever, you guys could always contact us through our email, which is bizarreencounters@outlook.com, or you guys could always call or text the Bizarre Reality Media hotline 24/7, and that number is 313-364-1551. And if you guys happen to miss any of that, it is available down in the show description. Please welcome to the show, Jay Bachochin, filmmaker behind the Finding Jay Chronicles. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Shane and Orin. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing pretty good, sir. Thank you for coming on tonight. Shane's told me a lot about you, so I'm super excited to have you come on and kind of pick your brain a little bit and learn about some of your films that you've made. So kind of starting off, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this line of work and research, and maybe about some of your films, if you wouldn't mind?
Well, I'll tell you what. didn't start doing this for filmmaking or anything like that. I've always been interested in the paranormal. I mean, I'm going to date myself, but back in the 70s when Creature Features was in black and white. And so I always had an interest with that. But I had a very cool UFO sighting with my family back in 79 that we still talk about till this day. But the real cool thing was that's kind of how I was. I was always wired a little bit differently than most people, or most kids, I should say. You know, while everyone's out playing softball, riding bikes, I'm down in my basement waiting for Godzilla to come on the TV. But, you know, seeing that UFO and my grandfather, who was in the early chapters of MUFON in Chicago, that gave us something to talk about. I mean, truly, he was almost like Mulder. He always wanted to find the truth, and he told me all of his stories from the 50s. But I've always had that drive of, I'm going to say not everything paranormal, but supernatural. So, you know, seeing that, and of course, you know, in the 80s, Ghostbusters came out. So who didn't want to bust a ghost? But I didn't get my chance until the, I'm going to say about 2006, when we formed our own team in Wisconsin. And that's when TAPS was really popular, Ghost Hunters. And we really wanted to find out if that was the truth. Or you're just watching something on TV. So it really got us vested into the paranormal, and just being able to do that, having a team of 10, and it was a great little venture. You know, we got our website. It was the coolest thing to have a website back then in the mid 2000s. I'm like, hey, we're there. But I honestly have always been more about the truth more than anything else, than trying to prove if ghosts are real. I live about 15 minutes away from the infamous Bray Road, which I see all the time. And that's also where I got to know Linda Godfrey, you know, God rest her soul, and where we became friends. And, but of course there's Elkhorn, and then you go further north, you're going to be hitting pretty much the Kettle Moraine. And that's 55,000 square acres of, you know, dense wooded hills. The terrain is just unbelievable. It's kind of where I ended up there. And I'll tell you what, I believe in Loch Ness Monster, Dogman werewolves, ghosts, aliens, all this. But Bigfoot was not on my radar at all. I don't know why. I saw that Mysterious Monsters back in the 70s at the theater, saw the Patterson Gimlin film, and even being, you know, like 8 or 9 years old, I thought it was a guy in a suit. So I kind of thought there's one Bigfoot out there, and this is what it is. I mean, that was definitely not on my radar until one fateful night in October in 2013, where we did get out and we heard something. So I'll never say I'm an Outback Jack, and I don't, I'm not a hunter or a tracker or anything. But we were out there, and I heard something I've never heard before, which really kind of catapulted me into finding the truth in the Kettle Moraine. And that's kind of where it all kind of started. Now, how the documentaries start, I document everything, even my kids, everything at home. I take pictures, videos. I've just got endless abyss of 5 terabyte drives of just photos. And pretty much just being out there for the first 5 years, I've had so much, whether it's, you know, body camera, audio, or thermal, or anything like that. And this is just the way I would just document, but it wasn't going to become a film or anything. Not until about 2015, when I get a lot of people saying, hey, Jay, do you want to come vendor, you know, at our paranormal event? It's like, all right, sure. You know, why not? But I have nothing to sell. You know, I'm not into doing this to sell. So I thought, why don't I put a few, some captures of what I've caught out in the kettle on a little DVD or CD, and just make like a little 15-minute montage movie. Because I always dabbled into that. You know, anything that was on the computer, I would try to create movie type things or anything like that. So I thought I'd put it together and maybe sell for $5 or something. But I started putting it together. And the more I was doing it, I was like, there's actually a story here. Those first 5 years. So I kind of kept going and putting it together. And near the end of putting this together, I had a film that was longer than Avengers Endgame. I mean, it was almost 3 hours long. And people are like, oh, if you're going to try to make that documentary, get it down to 60 minutes, and you can enter it into festivals and that type of thing. And I'm like, but I'm not doing that for that. I'm not putting together my films or anything like this for fame or for fortune. You can't make the money in this. But I did end up making my first documentary. 2019 is when that came out, and it was called Finding Jay. Now, of course, my name is Jay. I'm not being narcissistic. I was doing a play on finding Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. So every time I was out in the woods, I would say, I don't think I'll ever find Bigfoot while I'm out here, but I think Bigfoot will find me. So thus, finding Jay or finding Shayn or finding Orin, something like that. And that's just kind of where it took off after my first documentary. And I was able to get it on Prime back then, which it's still on Prime. Even my second film, Beyond the Kettle, Finding Jay 2, is also on Prime. And just this past September, I released The Kettle Connection, Finding Jay 3. But Prime has changed their parameters to where you just can't get those on there anymore. However, it does. All of my films reside on Paraflix, which is a great app. Just think of Netflix, but everything, paranormal, from ghosts, aliens to Bigfoot, all those type of things are on there. So in a nutshell, that's how I came to filming.
Well, it sounds like we're going to get along just fine. I'm sure you've talked to Shayn on his show, and we're big fans of all these different paranormal and cryptid related topics, and how aliens interact and connect to cryptids and the paranormal and whatnot. So it sounds like you've got a lot of different experiences and a lot of different kind of high strangeness areas. Do you think there's any sort of connection between these different areas? And if so, what, in your opinion, could those connections be?
Well, I could be one of those people that you're going to talk to that has all the answers. I'm the furthest one that has all those answers. However, what I do, the only way I could really explain it is I keep growing or evolving with what I believe. It's always think outside the box. And as soon as you think outside the box of different possibilities and you get to that answer, think outside the box of that, and you just keep going and going and going. And over the past couple of years, I've been looking, or I've been, I don't want to say researching, kind of learning some Native American ways that I really wanted to vest in with my third documentary, but I found it was just so much more than that. And I always say, I'm Bible based. I always say, Jesus is my Savior, it's my Lord. I'm learning other beliefs that are out in the woods that you're asking, is there a connection? And the more I've been going out there, the more I've learned, the more I'm feeling like it's not just Bigfoot out there. There's, you were saying, a bunch of high strangeness, but it's only high strangeness to us because we don't understand it. It could be 100% natural, supernatural, and just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it's totally odd. But I've been looking at it more saying, look, I'm not a Bigfooter, I'm not a Squatcher, I'm not a ufologist, I'm not a paranormal investigator. My name is Jay. I go out, I hike, and I observe, and I document. And that's the only way that I'm going to be able to find my truth without all the white noise that's out there. And I'm not saying there's not great researchers out there doing what they do that could run circles around me, but it's more becoming that window or observer when you're out in the living woods. So is there that connection between, let's say, the Beast of Bray Road, hop, skip, and a jump kettle moraine? And again, when you're looking at the kettle moraine, you're like, you're going to look at it through Google View or Google Earth or anything, and you're like, God, that's nothing. Yeah, it's nothing like Ohio or Kentucky or, on the East Coast or the Pacific Northwest. You would think there's just this little splotch of dense woods that's there, but there is something there. That I 100% know. What those connections are I'm still trying to figure all that out, obviously. So it's not like I have one answer for you on that.
Well, I thought that was a very good answer nonetheless.
Well, I wanted to take a moment actually before we go too far into the Bigfoot stuff, because we like to always talk about multiple facets of the phenomenon, as we were kind of mentioning a little bit earlier. So before we get too far away from it, you had mentioned your UFO experience that you had when you were a kid. And it seems like a lot of the time, these experiences either spark something where people become interested, or it sparks something where people tend to have more experiences. So I'd love to be able to dive into what exactly your UFO experience pertained to.
After we saw that, the one thing I don't really speak a lot about, because again, if there's no photos or no video, it never happened. And I have, in the past 10 years, since probably 2015, even though I'm putting out my documentaries, I am not trying to convince you that is real. I'm going to encourage you that if you are definitely into something like this, that you need to go out and find it, right? If you're a turkey hunter and you do recon, guess what? You're going to find turkey. Same thing with deer. You do your deer recon before hunting season, you're going to find your deer. And I believe that with the strangeness that's out there, you poke around enough, you're going to encounter something. But when it comes to the UFOs, back in, like I was going to say, I was right around 78 or 79, because I was a young lad, and my neighbor, my friend, he was 2 years younger than me, so he's like 7, and we had those Star Wars action figures. And this is after the UFO sighting. During the day, had to have been summer, because I remember being up in his room, and he was so cool. He was so rich. He had the TIE fighter, X-Wing fighter. It was cool. I loved being over there. And he had this really cool ledge by his window that they built that you could actually sit on. So we're actually sitting in front of the window. And I remember it was a total Simpsons type beginning, blue sky, the sun's out, the white clouds. That's how I remember it. But the very odd thing was, all of a sudden, everything went dark. Imagine, just close your eyes and put your hands over your eyes. It was that dark, and a totally lit day. Everything, and I don't mean just the sun went down dark. It went pitch dark. And all of a sudden, it was just within a couple seconds, everything just blinked into just the way it was. Now, if that just happened to me, I think maybe there was something wrong with, something within me. Maybe, I don't know. But my friend, Dave, looked at me and said, "Did everything just go dark?" So I can't explain how two of us had a total, I want to say blackout, but it was. Now, back then, I really wasn't into UFOs or time loss or anything like that. So I really don't know, even if there was time loss. But it was something that I can remember feeling, being that young, that really kind of catapulted me more into the high strangeness that's around us in everyday life.
We apologize, guys, for the interference, but we will be right back. And now back to the show. So also kind of hopping back into the documentaries, at least in the Kettle Moraine, obviously, like the main fast that you're experiencing out there is Sasquatch, but there always seems to be this connection too with this UFO phenomenon and some of the Sasquatch stuff. So, out of curiosity, have you by chance seen any of these like orbs or lights or UFOs by chance when you're out there researching Sasquatch?
Yeah, 100%. In fact, we were just out there. We were out there during the day last week, and the weekend before that. We see them all the time, and these lights have almost become like normal now. You just kind of call it out, like, yeah, there it was. It's either sometimes they're like sprites, like Tinkerbell lights. Sometimes they are full orbs that are right there. Sometimes they're right on the right side of you to where it just flashes in the corner of your eye. And the thing is, you always think that, how your eyes can adjust if you go from a dark room, or no, actually a light room into a dark room, and then your eyes are still kind of fluttering like that. But yet, it never happens anywhere else but out in the woods, and it's usually in one spot, but it's what other people see as well. So there's definitely things that I could say, is there a correlation between, and that's what I had in my second documentary, is there a connection between the lights and Bigfoot? Are these entities of Bigfoot actually moving around like the balls of light? Mm-hmm. And that's only because of my second documentary, which is on there, which is really cool. The three of us were out there. I remember it was in August, and it was a beautiful night. Not too hot, no mosquitoes. That's always a plus. And we're out there, and I heard a barred owl. Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you? And it did that a few times. And the two people I was with, I said, "It's a barred owl. Who cooks for you?" And I kind of repeated it just like that. And just off to our left, maybe about 20 yards right to our left, we heard the weirdest owl call but it actually sounded like a person making the owl call. And I'm like, whoa. And I mean, it's dark. And I pull out the thermal rod, the flare at the time. And all of a sudden I'm looking, and at first I'm like, oh man, we've got somebody right here. I'm thinking people. I'm not thinking of anything supernatural or anything. And all of a sudden I'm looking, and I'm like, with a flare, you really can't tell how close things are, how far things are, but you can pick up the thermal image. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, yep, I think I see two people walking. Yep. Okay. Maybe that's what it was. And then the two people that came up right behind me said, well, what do you see? And I'm like, no, okay, I can't see him anymore. And right then this ball of orb from that location kind of goes as an arc right in front of us, in front of the trees, not behind the trees. Because again, you have the horizon there. So if you see something behind it, could it be a plane? Could it be, or UFO, whatever. This was in front of the trees in front of us, and it did this arc. And as soon as you saw it disappear, we heard a loud crash. And right then is when I thought, am I seeing something physical that manifested into an orb of energy, move to evade us, and then become physical again? And that's where we heard the crash of woods. So, I'm not sure, if there is that connection, or what category you can really put them in, or if that's really what happened or how we perceived. But I can tell you that after looking at that footage of the flare after, and then doing what I call CSI investigation to break everything down from distance to everything that you can imagine. I had a rangefinder, I had everything right there. And from what we saw, wasn't the two people, because if there was a path, the path bent around and went this way. Mm-hmm. And what we were looking at was into the woods. Saw this huge tree, and we gauged it perfectly. And whatever that was moved so quickly, as if it was peeking on both sides of this huge tree, and it was moving that quick. And a lot of people want to say it was possum, raccoon. Nothing would move that fast. And if you look at the distance between what it was and what the flare picked up, it would have been a 500-pound raccoon moving at light speed, which is still crazy. So again, I never want to say that was a Bigfoot. I mean, it could have been a gray alien. I don't know. Those are the best answers I can always give is I don't know. I can only present what we saw.
What I think is so interesting about that account you just laid out is in our research and from talking to multiple different guests, it does seem like there is this recurring motif with Bigfoot type creatures and these orbs seen at the same time or in the same areas, and these two very strange phenomenon that you would think you'd be lucky to see one of them in a lifetime. A lot of people report seeing them, like I said, same time periods, same locations. And taking it one step further, the motif of owls seems to pop up time and time again, especially with, like I said earlier, other high strangeness type accounts, and owls being used as almost like a mask for the phenomenon, or whatever you want to call it. So, I mean, I think that story you just told checks a lot of boxes there. So that's a very cool one. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I've heard that too, because people say Bigfoot mimics. And I'm like, we don't have one in the garage to study that we can say, number one, there's the Bigfoot. Number two, let's watch what kind of calls it can do. And that's where I become where it is the living woods. And it's crazy. If you got up here and started really breaking out some of these theories, they're bizarre and they're out there, but I'm always thinking outside the box and just learning some of the more of the respect of the Native American way of approaching it, of reciprocating with tobacco, of thanking. There's so much to that I don't want to say that I want to be I'm a Native American hack. That's what I want to be. But it is definitely helping me connect more with the woods in itself. Mm-hmm. So many strange, bizarre things. In fact, there's so many strange things that have happened that are not even in my third documentary, happened afterwards. Mm-hmm. And when a big cut stick, mind you, not just a branch from up above, falls from nowhere, and literally everybody just saw it appear about 12 feet off the ground and landed right between me and my chair. And again, this wasn't just a branch that fell out. It was, when they work on the woods, you can tell it was cut on both sides. Mm-hmm. So where do these things come from? And again, I'm not saying a Bigfoot threw it at me, but I am saying that there is more to these woods, mm-hmm. that where I just give it respect. In fact, I kept the stick. I said, hey, it's a gift. I use it as a walking stick now.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to lead into something a little bit bizarre with this one, but just out of curiosity, and I'm sure Orin might know where I'm leading with this one. When you've been in the kettle in any of these locations, have you ever had experiences with like time dilation or like random disorientation or like confusion?
Oh yeah, 100%. I can account 2 times in the past 13 years that I've had time loss out there. And one of them was about 22 minutes from what my audio said versus the amount of time that it took, which was really bizarre. Another one was close to 2 hours of a difference. I sometimes do feel that when I'm out there, I do. It's like, I don't want to say that I'm one of those people that like a medium or psychic that I can feel, but I trust my gut. Mm-hmm. And I think as all of us humans, we do have that. We have that sense. Mm-hmm. So I think when you're more open into the woods, you can kind of feel that. And a lot of the times it almost feels more like I'm being watched, as if somebody's recording me, like on video, like kind of that feeling like, okay, you're being watched. And it's not like a scary thing or anything, but it's just it's around. And yes, there's been plenty of times, I would say more in the beginning, where I feel like they use the term zapped. Again, I don't have a Bigfoot in my garage. I can say they zap people. Whatever it is, I've gotten out there to where I have felt lost. I have felt like ready to throw up, just from out of nowhere. As fast as it would come, it would go. And that also happens with some of the people I go out with. And there's a lot of different people I go out with. So if it all just happened to me, then you could just say, all right, Jay, you're selling me you're selling me property on the moon, right? But don't get me going on the moon. It is basically when I get out there, I'm kind of immersed into the nature of that, and it does. Yeah, it does. It makes my head spin sometimes.
It seems like we recently had somebody on named Trey Hudson, and he does a lot of work at this place he calls the Meadow. And it seems like there's a lot more of these like location type areas that are popping up, and a lot of people kind of correlate them to some of the like phenomenon that happens at like Skinwalker Ranch, for example. But I'm kind of starting to wonder if it seems like when you have these pocket areas that all of this other phenomenon comes with it. So when you have these like random distortions of confusion or all of these things that we kind of relate to like infrasound from like Sasquatch, I'm kind of starting to wonder if it might not necessarily be Sasquatch itself, but rather something that's going on in these areas. Because, at first, like I said, we're looking at these places like they were specific ranches, but now thanks to a lot of like Trey Hudson's work, people are noticing that these locations that are in the woods interact the same way as some of these ranches. So it kind of seems like we're dealing with the same phenomenon, but we're starting to realize that, again, like with a lot of this stuff, all these things that we've kept categorically separate are all functioning the same, just with different like skins on them, so to speak, or different faces. And I don't just mean that in the aspect of the creatures, but also the like area on the land itself.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think the veil has definitely lifted in the past 13 years to where people are noticing this a lot more. Because when I really look at this, you're talking about the ranch, I could be talking about the kettle, and I could be looking at the kettle saying, if you ever just saw a whole group of standing pines, right? They stand over 80 feet, close to that, all close together. You kind of look at it. And sometimes when I'm out there, I feel that I could be the flea and these standing pines could be the hare, which made me really kind of think more in a grander scheme of what the living woods is. That's something that where I'm still trying to figure out. You were talking about the ranch and everything being the same that way, but then I thought it's just not the kettle. It's everywhere. And now you could start talking about that the woods in itself is maybe one entity. Just watching Stranger Things, right? You got the upside down. You kind of flip the kettle upside down just to see what would be underground, and it would just be nothing but networks of trees, the root system, and each one of those overlaps, meaning you knock on one tree, the tree 100 yards from you is feeling that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's not like I'm trying to look at it like, I'm going to be dancing around trees anytime soon. Sometimes I always felt that like, okay, here's Jay, he's a tree hugger. But I have become more connected with, the said tree or just being in nature like that. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I kind of believe, at least in the kettle. That's what I believe. And again, you were talking about the ranch being similar to that way. I'm thinking in time, we are going to figure out that everything is well connected. Mm-hmm. And, the veil has been lifting since 2000, I believe since like 2012. Something happened to where people are starting to see this or experience it now. And we're just trying to figure it out. We're stumbling through it. I think we all are.
I mean, I think it's a matter of we've had this type of stuff figured out at multiple points in time, but we end up being this we end up having this mass confusion where enough generations go by and we completely forget half of the stuff that we know, or we start relearning it again under a new context and with new advancements of language and technology and everything. So it almost kind of becomes hard to pinpoint, because it seems like as soon as you maybe start kind of catching up with the phenomenon, everything else in society changes around you and the phenomenon changes with society, and then it continues to always be changing. Where, I mean, even just simply something like Sasquatch investigating, the paranormal, the equipment that you have access to now versus 5-10 years ago, and the equipment that you might have access to in the next 5 to 10 years to try to prove the phenomenon, just kind of shows how hard it is to kind of correlate some of this advancement of what we're figuring out with the phenomenon as, it continuously seems to be evolving and staying ahead of us.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a very fair statement. And that's the way I always look at it. We got to approach it that way. Mm-hmm. Exactly what you're talking about, because we don't know yet, right? I mean, can we all agree on that? Even the leading Bigfoot researchers or paranormal investigators think they have a handle on it, but really, if we did, it would no longer be called paranormal; it'd be called normal, right? And as far as what Bigfoot would be, even if I showed you the best HD footage with me standing there, it's now AI. So I'm not going to sit there and try to convince you on it. But what you're saying is definitely a fair statement.
Well, Jay, kind of piggybacking off of what you just said, I really like your perspective on things because, I talk on the show all the time about how, as I've, researched and looked into more topics, to me at this point, like the answers, quote unquote, seem a lot less important than they used to. Like, not to sound cliche or anything, but like the journey and the discovery and finding things out, I almost put more value in than trying to find some sort of ultimate answer. And that's what I thought was really interesting about, the Finding Jay name, like in some roundabout way, maybe you're finding yourself, and like through researching and looking into these things, the answers might not be as important as the journey getting there. And again, not to be cliche, but finding Jay during this process.
And that's actually perfect, because when I did come out with the name of it, it was a play on Finding Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. But if you watch that first documentary, you'll see where I am finding me. And it sounds weird. It sounds narcissistic. It's kind of my evolution of just always learning. And you would see that in each one of my films on how much I feel like I keep learning. Or like you were just saying about the answers themselves, it's more about the journey. People are going to be like, all right, what's going to happen, Jay, when you do find Bigfoot? And I'm like, then I'm going to start looking for unicorns. I don't know. Who knows? But
you're in Dogman's backyard. That might be the next one, but that might be a little bit dangerous since you got little ones.
Yeah. No, they're actually big now. They're almost, my son turned 18. My daughter's 14 going on 23. They're definitely not older. No, but I mean, as far as that, because, you look at that, you're like, do you do any research with UFOs? And I'm like, God, the government's got that monopolized. What am I going to do besides taking a picture or video of the sky? And then people are like, they already believe that anyway, but if
you're onto something, you're going to get black vans outside your house anyways. I mean, you got confirmation if you're onto something, but do you want to tamper with that?
No, well, exactly. And the thing is, and that's what I'm doing, is I am not trying to convince you. That I think that's pretty much my message in everything that I do, is I will show you what I have found, what I believe in, which is just my opinion. But I could be the best used car salesman this side of La Crosse River. You know what I mean? The Mississippi River. I could be that good in trying to convince people that's real. But instead, I'd rather them not take my word on it. Mm-hmm. Maybe just be encouraged to go out and seek to find their truth. And maybe not just in the woods, but in everyday life. It's like, question everything.
Exactly.
And, I know a lot of times people would be like, all right, Jay, you're just some conspiracy, nut or something like that. But I like to just call it as critical thinking. And what's wrong with critical thinking? If I can think it, I'm going to go that way. I'm not going to convince you that's what the answer is. That's just not how I roll. I just encourage people to go out and find their truth.
Well, I think that's the best way to go about things. I mean, people who claim to have the answers about anything, much less things in this realm where there are no quote unquote real answers, you should always be leery of. So, I mean, I feel like anybody in the paranormal or the cryptid or the UFO game that like claims to have any sort of answers, that's red flags automatically. So I think, the fact that you are so humble and straightforward with the fact that, hey, I don't know anything. I'm just telling you what I think. And, if I can do some cool stuff and, find myself out here in the woods, that's great. And, maybe that's, like I said, more important than finding some ultimate answer. So I just really love your perspective on all this.
I appreciate that. But that when it comes down to it, that's the truth. No matter what it's going to be, no matter what we try to find, no matter what I find, it's really going to come down to my reality, my truth, my observing, and still have everybody around me saying, Jay, you are wrong. But when I had my daytime sighting 2 years ago, 3:00 on a March, being out in those woods, that was it. Honestly, Orin, you were saying, did I find it? I saw it, and I knew exactly what it was. So any print that I casted, any video that I've taken, all that went out the window, and that was it. It was like the most beautiful thing ever. And I think I just mean more emotionally, because I felt like I was allowed to see it, just kind of that little taste of that's what it is. And again, like you were saying, is that really the end? No, because like ghost hunters who go out and go in the paranormal house, or paranormal investigators investigating houses might capture an EVP and might be able to say that's a true EVP, electronic voice phenomenon. But what's the end goal there? Okay, so you caught that. Now, where's that from? Are we all just led to believe that they're just Patrick Swayze? They're just ghosts, right? they're just ghosts. And it's like, all right, what is a ghost? Well, it's going to tell you what a ghost is. Like I said, I'm a Bible believer. What's the Holy Ghost? What is a ghost? But at the same time, we really don't know exactly what that is. And it's going to be the same thing in the woods. What I saw in the woods was 100% pure black against a snowy silhouette, standing pines. And what I saw was upright. What I saw looked like, from my perspective, was 60 yards away, looked like a head, kind of the shoulder, and maybe the arm straight down, but it moved if it was on skis. And it was just for a couple seconds. But it's like I knew. Nothing else. I mean, even if you wanted to put which you couldn't have, a snowmobile, a person running, a deer, anything, it would have continued. But it came from nowhere, from the trees, saw it for a couple seconds, and these standing pines aren't that big. All of a sudden, it just went by these standing pines. It was gone. Nothing continued. It just came from nowhere, went to nowhere. And to me, that is the whole connection part of whatever is in the kettle, in the living woods. Are they using the trees? I don't know. I don't know, but it's one of the coolest things ever.
All right, guys, we got to take another break. We'll be right back. And now we're getting back to the bizarre.
I know that Ron Moorhead has made some suggestions about them using the trees as far as being able to almost, I don't want to say transfer themselves through the trees, but it almost kind of seems like the motif of how the Fae would kind of walk in and out of these trees. But I mean, I don't think it's necessarily as literal as that, as some people might perceive, because when it comes to a lot of this stuff in reality, I mean, I don't think that there's everything that humans are intended to understand. We live in an extremely complex universe, so who are we to think that we're ever going to be able to completely understand any of this stuff? And I've been really attuned onto the idea about fourth dimensional beings and higher dimensional beings, and just off of the simple philosophy of it, that these things would be able to simply step out of our reality and then step back in without it even being anything that would phase them. So, I mean, if you kind of take into consideration just some of this like fourth dimensional philosophy and just the complexities of the universe as it is. I mean, I don't think all answers are ever intended to be answered by people. I mean, from the simplest thing of like, how does Sasquatch exactly function in our reality? I mean, if it is something that's maybe coming from somewhere else, just off the possibility of that, I mean, we can research it all we want, but it doesn't mean that we're ever going to fully ever understand it. But I mean, that kind of plays into this whole idea that it seems like a lot of Sasquatch researchers, when, you know, they're kind of getting to that point where they just really want to see something, it always kind of gives them that little taste, like right when they need it. And it almost kind of seems like, you know, maybe it's just perfect timing, or, you know, maybe these things are coming from somewhere else and they have more of an understanding of things than we give them credit for.
Oh yeah, 100%. And honestly, I believe it does really come down to the frequency that we're at, the vibrations of what makes something physical. Believe me, I failed some science in high school. I never went, so I'm not the brilliance on that part of the science physical fact, but I do believe in frequencies. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that if they're operating, and when I say they're, I'm not just saying Bigfoot, but whatever is out there is operating on that. Who knows exactly, like Ron was saying. I kind of read that about Ron as well, but back in 2015, I was already thinking the trees. This has something to do with the trees, whether the trees are not Ents or anything like that. But, you know, what if some of the trees that we're looking at are actual physical beings that could kind of stop, become a tree again? You're just looking at a tree. Or maybe they are operating on this different frequency that these, I call them beings, or I don't want to say people because I really don't know. But sometimes I think, you know, are they that in tune with the frequencies that they use the Jedi mind trick? This is not the Squatch you're looking for. And we're walking right by it, and we don't even know it's there, or that it can just stay that way. So it's not a matter of predator cloaking, which I have seen the cloaking out there. I can't say that it was a human form or anything, but it was definitely an image that was standing by a tree that I was looking at. And this is actually in my, this will be in my third film. And I actually was looking because my oldest daughter, she saw something and she goes, there by the tree. And I'm like, looking at a million trees. I'm like, what tree? She's like, right there. Do you see it? And I'm looking, I'm straining, and I'm right behind her. And I'm not seeing it. I put my eyes pulled forward and kind of right where the path and the tree line is. All of a sudden, my eyes fixated on what looked like a little disturbance. It was really hard to tell, obviously, but I was about 40 yards away. And all of a sudden, as soon as my eyes locked on it, that distortion moved behind the tree, which was weird because it didn't move in front of the tree, because that distortion of the bushes or whatever it was kind of ceased, like as if it went into the tree. Now, that was very odd. But my 36-year-old nephew, he's off to the left because actually after my daughter saw it, he was kind of flanking to the left, and he was kind of looking in that area too. And as this happened, I kind of walk up to that area, and my nephew kind of meets me right there. And he goes, my nephew is really kind of black and white kind of guy. You know, he's like, show me a hairy werewolf or a gray alien or something. Don't show me any of this ghost crap. And he goes, but what was weird is right by this tree, remember, he came from where we couldn't really hear us. He goes, this was kind of weird, but he goes, there was like this translucent thing on the right side of the tree that before, as you guys were starting to walk up to it, whatever it was, jetted across the path through some brush and didn't make a sound. So to me, he saw the same thing. I just saw it go behind the tree. He saw either went behind the tree or in the tree. I don't know. But I really think that they are operating on some sort of different level of frequency that we're not at. You know, sometimes I will pick up a spoon and look at it and say there is no spoon, right? You know that reference I'm giving you there. And sometimes I think about that when I'm out in the woods. It's like, what are we seeing? Mm-hmm. And it's just because it's on a different frequency.
I mean, that also kind of plays into the fact that if we are possibly messing with higher dimensions and different realities, some of these areas that we're having some of these experiences in, the reason why maybe like Sasquatch could completely disappear, and it almost kind of seems like it's this prehistoric type thing. If you go into, quote, the next dimension up, they theorize that it's time. So what if, some of these Sasquatches that we're seeing aren't necessarily that they're presently here in the aspect that we think that they are, but it's just that these areas are anomalous. So we're actually seeing almost like simultaneous times existing at the same time. And, maybe like Sasquatch and humans aren't necessarily existing at the same time, but, if you have this rippled area where the fourth dimension kind of bends a little bit, then you essentially have all time happening at the same time at once, which could explain some of the paranormal stuff. That could explain some of the time dilation in some of these places. That could explain some of this like orb traveling back and forth, because this seems like it could be possibly some type of like dimensional shift. So, I mean, that kind of plays into the whole factor of everybody kind of falls into this quote woo-woo Sasquatch phenomenon. But, I try to give them credit for definitely being some type of an intelligent being, but, I don't know if they're necessarily these, like mystic type creatures that people try to play them out to be. I'm not saying that they aren't necessarily, but maybe some of the phenomenon that happens around them isn't necessarily them themselves. It's like I was kind of mentioning earlier, the area itself, or again, if you go into the aspect that these things might be things coming from a different place, maybe some of these abilities that we're looking at as woo-woo are something that's completely natural to them, like being able to step out of what we would assume is reality if they are something from a, fourth dimension, for example.
Well, exactly. But again, and this goes to those people who say the woo, believe the woo, right? And if we, which drives me nuts because it's kind of like, you got to think outside the box. All right. I believe that Bigfoot is flesh and blood and will leave prints. It's not an apparition, but I think it has supernatural attributes. It's something that we don't understand. And I guess if that's the woo, then sign me up. I don't sit there and knock on the ape camp or, even the biblical Nephilim. Again, we don't know. It depends on where you believe on that or the aliens on it. But here's the other thing is the more open I think we are to it, sometimes I wonder if we manifest what these things are being out there. And I'm not saying, right, I think there's a Bigfoot. Oh, there's a Bigfoot. We did that. But I think if you put enough frequency, energy into that, that's always that possibility. There's a lot of people that go out there, hunters or anything like that. They're like, they've never experienced anything like that. They really don't believe it. Mm-hmm. They're not open to it. Therefore, it doesn't happen. Or if something does happen, they'll just chalk it up right away to it being natural, which it very well could be. But that's just my point being is that we actually could possibly be manifesting that. Again, I'm not saying it is. We're spitballing here. So that's one of the best things that you can really do, because I guess in a way we'll never know, or maybe one day we will know. But that's kind of what my theory would be on at least the frequency of manifestation.
That's a concept that we kind of touch on a lot on the show, is this idea of manifesting, or the phenomenon presenting itself in different ways, and in
it's
ways
like the observer effect, or like the double slit experiment. I wanted to throw that one in there. It's like it doesn't affect it unless you're actually purposely trying to view it.
Well, yeah, it's if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it, right? Did it make a sound?
Yeah, and
or did
also, and also like the phenomenon presenting itself in these different masks in different situations. So like if you're out in the woods, it will present itself as a Bigfoot. If you're kind of in the desert at night, it might present itself as a UFO. So I mean, I think you're definitely onto something there, as there's a definite human mental facet of all this, I feel like. And something else we talk about on the show all the time is, I feel like if you allow yourself to just entertain the idea that there are some legitimately strange things going on out there, and there's things we don't have the answers for, it becomes a lot easier to kind of wrap your head around, well, maybe it is something as crazy as we are kind of downloading our consciousness or our experience onto this thing we're experiencing.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, I don't think there's any theory out there that's strange enough for me to understand or wrap my head around it. And again, that's about evolving. We can all be just closed people with our theories. When you hear somebody just talking about these things being natural, all right, I don't believe in the woo or anything, but Bigfoot this is what I think it is. And some of it just doesn't make sense, because if they're this big, they're leaving these prints, they break through everything, then wouldn't they just be tracked somewhere? And then we'd catch up with them like the silverback gorillas in the early 1900s. We'd eventually catch up to that. And so far, we haven't been. So that's where I'm thinking. It's like, in a way, we are chasing ghosts out there because we just can't find them. And therefore, Orin, like you said, it's the journey. It's not so much we're going to sit there and look for it and put on our infrared goggles and just look everywhere going, I just want to see it. Now it's pretty much, hey, I'm in the living woods. I'm at home. Right now I don't even hike anymore. I hike, but I hike to a location, and then you plop down with your chairs, and that's it. And just let whatever happens happen. And if nothing happens, it was a great night anyway. You're going out there, you're with friends, you're talking, you're laughing, you're observing. And then when something does happen, then you're trying to break it down and make sense of it. And it's definitely fascinating.
I really love where research has shifted, where even for the paranormal, for Sasquatch stuff, it seems like the origin of a lot of this stuff was you're trying to provoke something to respond back to you. And it seems like now a lot of researchers are coming at this stuff in a lot more of a respectful tone, in the sense of paranormal researchers. Of course, there's different ways to invoke without sitting here saying like, oh, come out here and show yourself. Come out here and show yourself. Because nobody wants to hear anything like that. You're never going to get like a positive response from that. So you correlate that, of course, with Sasquatch. And maybe, I'm not saying that they're related to apes, but if you try to relate some of their behavior to something that we're familiar with, like ape behavior, and you look at apes, for example, like pounding on trees, pounding on their chest, throwing rocks, like these are all signs of aggression. So if we're out here, and they're screaming, of course, signs of aggression. So if we're out here trying to find a Sasquatch, banging stuff on trees, sitting here screaming, these are just putting two and two together may be signs of aggression. So, you're probably not going to have a positive experience trying to go out there and act like you're the big boss of the woods doing this type of stuff. But, now that it's kind of shifted where people are sitting down and letting the woods come to them and letting the Sasquatch's curiosity come to them, people are having better responses with the Sasquatch, better interactions with the Sasquatch, and they're also not having these negative experiences where they're getting chased out of locations. Instead, they're having these positive reinforced experiences where the Sasquatch will start kind of inching up, or they'll start leaving these little things around them, where it kind of brings the idea of people coming back into these areas. And it kind of shows that, we've always kind of looked at these things like these savage beasts that exist in the woods. And I'm always going to tell people to have caution, but, to a certain extent, it seems like humans tend to be able to tame a lot of savage beasts. So, if we go about the research properly, maybe there is a line of communication that we can open up with these things, but we first have to make them realize that, as a whole, maybe we've progressed as a society where we're not trying to attack them anymore, but rather we're trying to just discover and learn about them.
No, 100%. If you go out there, I've always said this, if you're going out there looking for an ape, you're going to find an ape doing it the way you're doing it. If you want to walk out there and have that respect that they are people, and again, I'm not saying that they are people or maybe a mixture, I don't know, but having that respect, you're going to get that respect back. So Shayn, that was beautifully said, because that's exactly how I approach it. I'm not Zach Baggins and it out there and trying to call them out, and definitely some of the teachings that I have learned through the Ojibwe nation. Hello, Kim, if you're watching. That is, it's a disrespect to be able to call them out. It's exactly what you were saying. So then it's just more or less just tuning in and letting that happen. Did I used to bang on trees and howl like finding Bigfoot? I did. early on.
Everybody has to start somewhere.
Well, you have to start somewhere. But again, I think it's each individual, because I think there are still people that have been doing this for over 20, 30 years that are still knocking on trees because they haven't moved on from thinking of the different possibilities. So I go out there with always just that utmost respect with whatever I do. Like I said, I will reciprocate with the woods with a tobacco offering if anything was to happen. It's not that they're, whatever this is looking down to pick this snuff up or whatever, roll it up and smoke it or eat it or whatever. It is it's just it is that connection between that respect you're going to have for the woods that way. And I've actually turned into the person that I probably made fun of about 4 years ago. That when I saw people like this, I'm just like, they are, they're cuckoo. And
it's kind of like the respect of coming into somebody's house and like offering like a dish of food if somebody invites you over. You kind of view it on the same context.
100%. That's how it is. It's like, yeah, if you're going to be, if I'm going to be walking into the woods, I am walking into their home. And I mean nature for whatever it is. If a big ugly spider is going to be hanging right in front of me, I'm not going to freak out, try to kill it or anything like that. I mean, I'm walking into nature's home. Mm-hmm. Now, I do have a problem with ticks, though. They're goners. I don't care what, because those things are demonic, and they're blood-sucking demonic things. But other than that, it's just like, I mean, even just, I don't really traverse a lot off-path, and it's not because I don't want to get into ticks and poison ivy or anything like that, because they're everywhere. I'm doing it more that, when we have these trails that are out there, to me, those are like public streets. And if we're in our house right now and you look out your window and you see somebody walking along the street, you're just like, okay, cool. But now that person takes a step on your front lawn. Wait, okay, what's going on? Right away, red flags going up. Now that person's walking across your lawn, not to your front door, but maybe to a side window. Okay, that's the aggressive part that I think of when we're out there. That I'm not going to sit there and try to throw on a ghillie suit or anything and try to sneak up to something and to be out there. It's like, it's already there. Feel free to come to me. And that's the type of respect I have for the woods while I'm out there. Is if I do go off path or whatever, I don't hack things so that I can get through. I take the path of less resistance, but I try not to disturb anything. That's just how I approach the woods.
No matter what way you look at it, these things live out there, so they're always going to be a step ahead of you. Like, I always say this on the show, that we try to judge intelligence level from our human perspective, but if you throw most people out in the woods, even a squirrel is going to be able to survive better than they're able to, and they're going to know the woods a lot better than any person that's thrown in there. So where's the intelligence level when it comes to that? So, even if Sasquatch maybe doesn't retain the same type of knowledge that we do, no matter what way you look at it, out in the woods, they are always going to be a step ahead of you, even if you're being sneaky, if you're doing whatever, because they're also hyper aware to everything that you're doing, your smells, every single possible thing you could do. So you're never going to sneak up on a Sasquatch. If anything, they're going to make a mistake and accidentally sneak up on you. And that's where you have those like roadside sightings, for example.
well, that's exactly it. But learning the Native American ways, they can also visit you in your dreams. I'm not there. And I don't mean to kind of cap that at what I try. But they're, like you were saying, they're already there. It's like being out there for the first time back in 2013 and then going out a couple more times after I heard those sounds. I told you I was never a woodsman, stayed away from ticks and poison ivy. That's just a fact. And now I'll do whatever I need to be out there. And I feel like that I was tagged. I don't even know how to explain it any better than that I was this one guy that just was never in the woods. Now I'm in the woods all the time. Mm-hmm. No matter what it was to bring. It's like and when I mean tagged, just mean more acceptance, more of a draw, more of just sitting here talking to you guys right now. There's no place I'd rather be right now is in the kettle. Even even at night, I have a draw, a beckoning call to be out there. And I don't know what that's about yet, but I don't sit there and try to question that. So, you're talking about what a Bigfoot is or what the living woods is, that are hyper aware of everything that you do, that maybe you're a part of them. Now, again, this goes crazy, so don't quote me or click me off just yet. But sometimes I think of it like E.T. and Elliot, being having that connection. One feels the other, because I have had some very vivid dreams of this one area in the kettle that I feel like I know, like I know that area, but I have no idea where it's at. And it sounds strange, but I've had things like that, and I do pay attention to them. I do document it. I file it. I don't go around broadcasting it. Maybe here on a podcast where everybody's watching, but which is okay. But I do. I just try to, file it, document it, just kind of remember it, and just say, just kind of accept what's kind of going on how they are out there.
Well, it seems like almost on a certain level, the wilderness or the entities or Bigfoot or whatever you want to call it has almost chosen you. Like you said, you weren't an outdoorsman. You didn't, set out to become a Bigfoot documentarian, but like through your experiences, it seems like, there was something maybe about you, and maybe it is your kind of unique perspective and experiences that these things, for lack of a better term, latched onto, and hey, maybe this guy's a good conduit for us. But no, it just seems very much like you were chosen more. The Bigfoot life chose you. You didn't chose it.
Well, that's funny. It's and here's the odd thing, because I would say, because I've heard other people say that too, and maybe it's my tenacity of being out there or being drawn out there. I don't want to say I'm anything special in the Bigfoot world or anything, and I don't know if a man can say if he's humble, if he says he's humble, but that's just kind of how I just approach it, I guess. And I just like to be able to speak about it because I'm passionate about it, and I know other people might be passionate about it too, but they're kind of on the fence. And it's kind of like, hey, you know what? You may not be able to find it watching documentaries or YouTubes or podcasts or whatever. Get out there. Become that window, become that observer to be able to come in contact with it. I always say, am I anything special? I'm just Jay from Wisconsin. That's it. That's how I feel. And if that's what the case is, I guess the story is not finished yet. So I guess we'll kind of see how things progress as my life keeps going on in the research.
All right, guys, this is our last break, so hold on tight.
And now back to the show.
Well, I guess that's a perfect spot to wrap it up for today. And we'll, of course, have to have you come back on because, of course, you're going to constantly be out there and doing new research. We'll, of course, have to do some updates with you along the way. But for anybody that might be interested in checking out your documentaries themselves, possibly getting themselves a copy or being able to check them out online, or possibly be able to contact you with some of their Sasquatch experiences, where might people be able to find you on the internet, and where can people get up with finding all your movies?
Well, you can actually, if you want to find because I do have a Facebook. That's about it. I used to have Instagram and all that other stuff, and X and Twitter, whatever. I don't anymore. You could actually just find me. Just go to jaybachochin.com, all one word. There you can contact me through email. I try to keep my website always updated with any news, anywhere where I'm going to speak or whatnot. But definitely, if you go to the storefront, I don't call it merch, but, because that's just so cliche. But if you go to the storefront, is where you can actually pick up any of my films on Blu-ray. That's what it's on. It's not on standard. It's big enough, long enough. I produced everything. It's on Blu-ray, but it's something physical and tangible to hold on to. Because yes, you can stream my first two movies on Amazon Prime, Prime Video. And you could view all my movies. In fact, I even have a special bonus edition to the first film, all on Paraflix. So you can watch Finding Jay, Lost and Found Finding Jay. It's kind of like a half, kind of special bonus run. And then Finding J2, Beyond the Kettle, and the Kettle Connection, Finding J3, all on Paraflex, which again, it's a great site in itself. You find a lot of Bigfoot stuff and skinwalker and werewolves and ghosts and UFOs. Very cool. And again, if they want to contact me, they can do that right through my website as well.
Well, we appreciate you making the time to come on today. It's definitely a fascinating conversation. I never know where these things are going to go, but I'm glad that every time we chat, Jay, it ends up going into a totally different direction. So thanks again for making the time to come on, and it's always a fun chat with you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Shane. Thanks, Orin. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been great chatting with you and kind of picking your brain and hearing your perspective on things. Very refreshing perspective, rather. And we'll have to have you come back on at some point, and you can tell us some more of your experiences and stories.
Absolutely. I've got years to tell, so that's great. You guys have a wonderful evening.
You too, sir. Thank you again.
Thanks.
If you guys might be interested in supporting the show and all of the hard work that we got going on behind it, one of the absolute best ways that you guys can do that is by going and checking out our Patreon, with now only having one tier with only $2.50 a month, and there is a 7-day free trial if anybody's interested in checking it out and seeing what it's all about.
And you guys also be sure to check out the Bizarre Reality Media merch store with t-shirts starting at the oddly specific and astronomically low price of just $15.68 plus shipping.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know that times are tough out there, but if you guys are interested in supporting the show in some other ways, one of the absolute best ways that you guys can do that is by leaving a review or rating for the show anywhere that you guys happen to listen to podcasts. And as usual, the rule for that is what, Orin?
1 and 5 stars only.
And of course, we will either give you a big shout out in the show and absolutely love you, or we'll give you kind of a shout out and ridicule you on the show. So depending on which way you want to go, 1 or 5 stars only, let's have some fun with it. And anything you guys do is always appreciated.
And also be sure to follow the show on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. I mean, just do all the internet things. Y'all know how the internet works.
Share the shit out of the show. Anybody that you think might happen to listen to it or really, really enjoy it. Because at the end of the day, algorithms are algorithms, but the only way that podcasts like ours grows is by people sharing it with friends. Because, there's so many podcasts out there that, you see a million of them every single time you go on the list. So let's be honest. The only time you really listen to a podcast is if somebody suggests it to you. So be that person for us. Suggest our podcast to anybody that you guys think might listen to it.
And also catch live shows and video content. And if you guys have some free time, be sure to show some love to our awesome friends and sponsors of the show. We've got our buddies Rick and Hans with I Know Squatch for all your Squatchy gear needs. We got our buddy Dave, a.k.a. the Snarly Yow, with Snarly Yow Natural Products. And we've got our buddy Joe with Cryptoteology. You ready for it? We hadn't done it.
I'm waiting for it.
For all your wearable cryptids.
Woohoo! It's been over a month, man. I was waiting for that. I had to feel the satisfaction of hearing you say cryptids weird, man. Cryptids. And of course, if you guys have some additional free time, don't forget to check out our other awesome friends with affiliate links. We got Dimension Devices if you guys are interested in picking up some paranormal investigating equipment for yourselves. And we also have Sticker Mule if you guys might be interested in picking up some t-shirts or stickers for your business, podcast, anything like that. And there, of course, is some additional discounts and credits available for you guys if you guys want to check it out. And that is all available down in the show description.
And as always, all the shit we've mentioned is in the link tree in the show description.
And just like I always tell you guys, and it's been a month, so I got to make sure that I remind you guys, because I really, as usual, really have to instill this point, to always, always remain and stay bizarre. Bizarre. Bizarre.
Sasquatch lives in trees.